It was a place of death and torment. The concentration camps in Auschwitz were a final destination for more than 1.5 million men, women, and children. However, some were able to make it out and live to talk about it. CBS 4 reporter Ted Scouten travels back with survivors to tell their story. We talked to Ted about this emotional March of the Living. Next on Comcast Newsmakers. Welcome to Comcast Newsmakers. I'm Spiro Canton. Holocaust survivors embark on a sacred pilgrimage back to the killing center of the Nazi regime. CBS Miami reporter Ted Scouten joined them on this emotional trip. Now, what triggered this idea to take these survivors back to where so many tragedies happened to them?
They go back usually every year. They have been for many years to enlighten others, to teach others. What got CBS 4 involved is Michelle Gillen, one of my coworkers. She's been following them for years, all three of these guys. She wasn't able to go on this trip because of a family emergency, so I ended up going. But these guys go every year to make sure that their message lives on, that no one forgets what happened.
You experienced this trip through their eyes. Yeah. It must have had some sort of emotional effect on you as well.
You know, it really weighs on you that you're going there with survivors of the Holocaust. You're going to the very places where they walked 70 years ago, where they saw their families taken away, where their families were killed, where they were imprisoned, where they were worked nearly to death, starved nearly to death, and you really get a totally different perspective. I mean, I've always learned about the Holocaust, historically. But now I was learning firsthand from actual survivors. And those guys, the thing is, they're all in their 80s and older. So we're not going to have that for many more years, getting that firsthand account.
That's right. And when you actually went back there with them, did they recall what happened in different locations you went to?
Yes.
What trauma occurred at this location and what happened here?
Yeah, one that really stands out is David Mermelstein. We were standing in Birkenau, which is part of Auschwitz, where he and his family were pushed off the train. And he explains how when he got off the train, he saw Dr. Josef Mengele right there. Dr. Mengele was the one who was doing the separation. You go to this line, you go to that line.
He was choosing who lives, who dies.
Right. And at the time, no one knew. No one knew what the separation was, or this selection process. No one knew. Everyone thought they were being relocated. So when they got there, there's so much confusion. Everyone's told to go in different lines. His mom and his sisters and the older people in his family were in one line. He got moved with his brothers into another line.
Amazing.
And then there was actually a guard there who told him, pinch your cheeks, say you're 17, not 15. That saved his life. Look taller, because then he looked older. He stood on his brother's feet, so he looked taller and older. That saved his life, because with kids, they had no use for him.
Yeah. So those little things, those little intangibles saved his life.
Exactly, exactly. And,
it's amazing.
And I was there firsthand, where he was saying, this is where we were. This is where it happened.
As a reporter, we're always taught to be detached from the story. Right. How could you be detached from this story?
While you're working, while you're shooting it, you do have a bit of distance in that, you're working, so you have other things going on in your head. But then moments happen where all of a sudden you go, wow. This isn't just a story. This is someone's story. This is someone's lesson. And of course it affects you personally. I mean, you can't help it. And the way I look at something like this, it was a great experience as a journalist to be able to go, but even a better experience as a human being.
To be there.
To be able to go and to be able to experience this firsthand.
It's a life-changing experience for you.
It is, because these guys have a very strong message. Their message is that they want people to know everything that happened so they can fight bigotry and hate and prejudice, because that's what led to all this.
And the March for Living, that also has some significance for the survivors as well as you.
Right. The March of the Living, they're with the young people. They're passing on the message firsthand to teenagers. There were a whole bunch from Miami-Dade and Broward who were there, who were getting all this firsthand information while the survivors are still around to tell it firsthand. So it's never forgotten. And when you see the sheer number of people, especially teens, who are marching in that March of the Living. There's thousands of them. And there's one point where you're on a hill and you're looking down and you see the whole crowd of them marching. They're going from Auschwitz, the main Auschwitz, to Birkenau, which is also another part of Auschwitz, so about a 2-mile march.
How did it affect the survivors, the March of the Living? Were they emotional about that entire experience?
You know, they always are. They always are emotional no matter. They've each done it several times. I think some of them have done it up to 8 times. But each time they are, because they remember what it was like to be there. And, you know, one of them, David Schechter, said, you know, as he was marching, what he thinks of is all the children who were killed. What would have happened had those children survived? What advances would they may have made in the arts and sciences? And,
amazing. An entire generation gone. You know, thanks for sharing your thoughts on this. Comcast customers with Xfinity On Demand can watch March of the Living in its entirety. It's free when you get local. I'm Spiro Canton. Thank you for joining us.